We have been talking tonight with Bryan Fuller, who's running for the Boston City Council, an at-large seat. We've talked about a number of different issues so far. We just recently finished talking about veterans issues, and now we're going to move into talking about education, which is another subject that is very dear to Bryan. So what are some of your thoughts on education? And I have to, before you start talking, I just want to kind of preface your answer with my comment that it always seems to be an issue because education is the cornerstone of everything, and ultimately everything relates back to it. I know certainly it was a big issue during the mayoral race. It was an issue during the gubernatorial race, and that's another thing. All levels of government. What do you see as some of the bigger problems and the bigger successes? Why don't we talk about the successes?
Sure.
And then the things that I don't want to say are bad, but we need to work on.
Sure. So let's just first of all give Massachusetts the credit it deserves. Massachusetts is number one in the country in education. They do a great job. Overall, Massachusetts. If I read just recently, if Massachusetts was its own country, we'd be 7th in the world. And Boston as a whole is the number one college town in the world.
Yes, it is.
So education is extremely important to Boston and people from Massachusetts in general. I think Massachusetts just does a better than average job than are dealing with a large, diverse population and helping them graduate. That being said, there are certainly some issues and certainly some difficulties. I've spent the last probably 3 or 4 weeks meeting with as many Boston public school teachers as I could, and I would sit down and have a cup of coffee with them or have breakfast with them. And I'd meet them in South Boston, or I'd meet them, in Dorchester or wherever they want to meet. And I came from an angle that I don't have children myself, and I didn't attend Boston Public Schools. So a lot of it was hat in hand. I'm like, please tell me what's going on. And I've had to build a narrative for my platform to understand Boston Public Schools. How Boston handles, its 57,000 students across 130 different Boston public schools.
Who will be the future of Boston?
Will absolutely be the future of Boston. And I had to understand, what's the relationship with charter schools and what's the relationship with kids with English language learning issues or kids with special education needs issues. And it's a fascinating and complex story between the relationships of all these different things going on. And in some ways, the problems that they have they're so complex and they're tough to get a handle on them. Boston has the way we look at our school systems has changed dramatically in the last 30 years. They made a big change, I think it was in 1978, where they wanted to, the schools were primarily walk-to schools. And what happened was the walk-to schools favored kids from richer neighborhoods as opposed to poorer neighborhoods. And Massachusetts, as a progressive state that we are, and Boston especially, said, this just isn't right. Let's mix the kids up a little bit. And let's bring some kids that maybe are less advantaged or the schools are not as good. We'll put them in some better schools and switch it up. And that way we ensure that the schools are well maintained. And it's created a kind of a complex grid of students going all around the city. And a lot of the people I've spoken to, parents and teachers, say, sometimes my kids, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get on a bus at 5:15, to get, from, all the way across town to go to a school in the North End or East Boston when they live in, Dorchester or Roxbury. it's enormously taxing and it's enormously expensive.
It is, and you know, Boston is quite unique in that it truly is a city of neighborhoods. It's
It really is.
It's not just a slogan. It really is a city of neighborhoods, and so to have children go to another part of the city for their education, it kind of takes away from the community feel, I find.
Exactly.
And then also, we want our children to be well-rounded. We want them to have the 3 R's. Or is it the 3 R's? Am I remembering that correctly from my childhood? But we also want them to have knowledge and appreciation of the arts and sports and all these different things. But it's hard to participate in these extracurricular activities when a bus ride after these activities is going to get you home, what, at 8 o'clock at night?
It's crazy.
Or 8:30? So surely something must be done or needs to be done.
Something needs to be done. You know, a lot of it has to do with, I think, the infrastructure of the actual schools themselves. You know, when I went and visited the charter schools, the first thing I noticed is when I walked in there, just how bright and welcoming they were. And all the charter schools are only about 5 or 6 years old. They're beautiful,
Right.
beautiful. This is the standard that Boston Public Schools should be up to. And quite frankly, you know, Mayor Walsh has talked about it quite a bit. There needs to be some real money spent to renovate these schools. And in the cases where the schools are too far gone, there needs to be a new school built. You know, I think that is the beginning of the answer. You know, and we need to take a hard look at, does it make sense to be busing kids all over the city? Boston spent somewhere around $80 million last year, or about 1/7 of its budget.
Could we maybe phase that out and divert the money?
Right. This is so. If kids are walking to school, they're not in buses anymore. They have more time for extracurricular activities, more time for homework. You know, more time to do to participate in school rather than that 3 hours. And then the cost, you know, that money that's being allocated to buses now could be reallocated back to schools. You know, that could be a solution. I do feel strongly that, you know, making schools more inviting for learning is a big thing. What I will say though is of all the teachers I've spoken with, there wasn't a single teacher I spoke with that wasn't passionate about their students. And I know a lot of people, their first answer is, we need better teachers, we need better teachers. I've never met a bad teacher.
I mean, it's not fair to make that statement categorically. You know, another hat I wear is that of a teacher. While I don't teach in the public school system, I have experience as a teacher. I am a teacher. That is my title. And so I have tremendous respect and deference. And I never hesitate to show deference to the teachers who actually did go and get that master's in education and the certification, and who do get up day in and day out and go to the schools and try to shape and mold the leaders of tomorrow. And we have Boston Public School teachers who are doing incredible things, and you have schools who are doing great things. So I don't think any kind of discussion about what could be improved or what needs to be improved is saying that all the rest isn't true, or what we said isn't true. It's just saying that, yes, there are great teachers and there are schools that are doing great things, but
there's improvements.
But there's a but.
Yeah.
But there's a but.
So next week, I've been invited to, because some of these teachers I've spoken with, they said, how would you like to spend a day in class with me?